Hi there, it's Elizabeth from Living Vibrantly, and I am back with my next round of physical therapy exercises for abdominal separation or diastasis recti. And I'm not going to go over too much of the background because you can look back at the videos on this page and find what exercises I've talked about in previous rounds. I think this is number 3 or number 4. But so there's a progression. So, if you are dealing with abdominal separation and a very weak core, you would want to start with the first set of exercises and work your way up from there. So there are 2 main exercises I'm going to show you, which are a progression from previous exercises. And then in addition to these, I have been assigned to do Kegel exercises, which you can do a Google search, Kegel, and you can find a lot of videos and explanations of what those are, but it's a contraction of the pelvic floor. And now I've added on contraction of the transverse abdominis, which is the very low, like buttoning your jeans muscle. So in combination, those help to make up for weakness in the rectus abdominis. So that's the part I'm not going to be showing. So I'm just explaining it real quick before we start, because Kegels are pretty hard to see from the outside. So you would do better to look up some diagrams and instructions and try them on your own. But if I show you in this video, it's not really going to tell you very much. Just to go over really quick the background, I have an abdominal separation right about here above my belly button, and it was due to some of the tissue being destroyed by an infection. I also have a really big scar, so the scar compromised the muscles and it just didn't completely heal properly. But the good news is the muscles themselves are still intact. It's just the connective tissue between them that was destroyed. So I've been retraining the muscles to pull them together instead of having them pull apart when they contract. So there are certain types of movement that are to be avoided. Really pretty much anything like crunching from like lying down on the floor and sitting completely up. I can't do that, but I did show a modified crunch with the orange sheet that you see right in the video. I think that was in my first video. So we use the sheet to hold it together and do a small crunch to retrain the muscles not to pull apart when you're crunching up. Okay, so the progression for this week, it's actually this month. I've been going to appointments once a month. And again, I'm not a physical therapist. I'm just sharing with you what my physical therapist has assigned to me, because I know it can be helpful if you are dealing with abdominal separation, you haven't gone to physical therapy, or you are just trying to understand more about what's happening with your muscles. And these exercises I feel are also good for people who, if your body's completely healthy and normal, right? Like what is normal? But if you don't have abdominal separation, I think these exercises can work well for general core strength. So many of us are weak in our cores, especially if you sit all day. So anyone can benefit from these exercises, but if you do have abdominal separation, you really should start small. And the exercises, like, start with week 1, don't start with this video. So go back on this page and look for the previous videos. And you probably should see a physical therapist, because the exercises that they will assign to you will be based on your situation and your condition. All right, so having said that, let me show you what exercises I'm doing this month. So one of them is a bicycle. In general, movements where you're lying on your back and moving your legs are safer in terms of not aggravating the separation. Movements of the legs are going to be safer than a movement where you're lying back and you're crunching and bringing your torso up. So there are a few different leg movements that I have demonstrated in previous videos. Here's the one for this week. So for the bicycle, you want to make sure that actually lifting one foot up, so start lying back with your knees bent. Let's just say that first. And now I have my hands pressed next to my hips for support, but I really want the main support for the position of my pelvis to be coming from the core muscles. So I engage that transverse abdominis, and I pay close attention to the angle of my lower back as I pick up one foot. So you want the angle of your low back to the floor, you want that angle to stay consistent as you pick this foot up and place it down. So it's not that your low back has to be smashed into the floor, but if there's a slight curve in the low back, it's just slightly off the floor, it should stay in that same spot and not lift up higher when you're picking your legs up. And you can only do that if you have your core engaged. So keep the pelvis, the angle of the pelvis stable as you pick up one foot. Continue to keep the angle of the pelvis stable as you extend the other leg. And it gets very challenging for the lower abdominal muscles as you slowly start to bicycle, keeping the angle of the pelvis constant as you do this. And then when you're done, bring both feet down. So my assignment is, what does it say, 10 reps. I think I've been doing 12. And it says to do this 3 times a day. I only do it once a day, but that's what it says. Don't tell my physical therapist. Anyway, the second one starts from a tabletop position. And so in this position, you want your knees under your hips, so knees apart, and your hands under your shoulders. And then the spine and the back of the pelvis is like a tabletop. I'm going to pick one leg up at a time. And what I realized when I was doing this in the PT office, I was trying so hard to tuck my tailbone, I was overdoing that action. And I think it's pretty common, like, we're so, okay, so don't do this, essentially is what I'm saying. Like, this isn't cat-cow. The challenge is actually to maintain a neutral spine instead of going to the extreme. That's the position that's the least stress on the joints of the spine. Okay, so I have to engage my core to keep the spine in the exact same position as I lift one leg up and stretch it back. Okay, so you see there's like just a small curve in my low back. That's a natural curve. It's staying the same. I'm not doing this, no, but I'm also not over tucking. Neutral angle, and you can actually place a small object on your back, especially helpful if you can't see yourself in a video, to make sure that your pelvis is staying level, so you don't want the object to slide or fall off. And that's it. So those are the 2 exercises. If you have any questions, please shoot me a message or an email. And, you know, if you're dealing with abdominal separation, I can't tell you whether these exercises would be right for you or not, but I certainly can share what my experience has been with the situation if you have any more questions about that. Thanks so much for watching.